everyone, welcome. This is Amy Cooper with Rise, and we are interviewing exceptional women in insurance for Women's History Month. And I am so pleased to welcome today Lisa Corless, the CEO of AF Group. Welcome, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I always enjoy visiting with you, and I am very honored to be grouped with the exceptional women that I know you've already talked to so far. So thank you.
Well, yeah, of course, and I look up to you. But for those who aren't familiar with you, could you give a little background on, kind of how you got to where you are?
Sure. So I have been in the insurance industry since the 80s, the late 80s, but a very, very long time. And I started out my career working for my dad and started in underwriting marketing, moved over to claims. And then I was in claims for a number of years, and most of my career was in Texas. And after a while, I wanted to explore underwriting a little bit more. So, I was given an opportunity there. And fast forward, I have been the president and CEO of AF Group since 2016. I have been at the company since 2013, and it's a really fun, great job. And I get to work with incredibly talented, smart, wonderful human beings every single day. So we're domiciled in Michigan. We're a multi-line specialty carrier, and our roots are over 100 years old. So it's a pretty exciting time to be here.
So can you share a defining moment in your career, something that's attributed to some of the success that you've had?
Sure. So, I think that there have been a lot of defining moments, but I'd say there really are two that stick out to me. And the two that I'll tell you a little bit about taught me the value of curiosity and authenticity. And so the first one is, and I'm not going to tell the story. You've heard it before. You know me. It's like the most massive failure I've had in my career, and I've had several, and I've hopefully learned from all of them. But it was, it was a system implementation. I was the executive sponsor. It was the first time I was the executive sponsor. So, what I learned, and it relates back to curiosity, is that, throughout the project, I was involved, but it was more of a surface level involved. It's like I would get my update from one person, and then I would be like, okay, that's fine. But when you've got a massive implementation or a big project, it doesn't boil down to one person, no matter how good they are. You have to be curious. As a leader, you have to ask a lot of questions. Otherwise, you don't have the information to do your job. And while you may be getting the information from one person who is amazing, it's only their perspective. And so that curiosity, really seeking out from others, hey, how do you view this? What challenges do you see? I realized at the end of my kind of debrief to figure out what had happened that the blame, if you will, I don't like to blame, but the blame, if you will, for the failure fell squarely on my shoulders. I should have been more curious, and it has completely changed how I lead. I ask a lot of questions. I really seek to understand. The other one is authenticity. And I think you've heard, I have a couple of stories with this one too, but it was my first job in the C-suite. And, like many people, I sometimes struggle with imposter syndrome, and it was full blown. And so in my mind, the way that I thought that I would show everybody that, I was the right person for this job is just by basically pretending I was somebody else who I'd seen do the job effectively. The problem is we were very different personalities. And no matter how hard I tried to be that person, to run meetings the way that they did, the way that, I tried to ask questions the way that they did, the way that I, held myself, that was a failure. And fortunately, I had a few teammates who called me out on it and basically said, what are you doing? This is so odd. And, I really learned that even if you don't really have the confidence in yourself, you have to show up authentically. You have to show up authentically. You have to be vulnerable and say, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is what I bring to the table. This is what I don't. So help me out with it, because people, by nature, we help each other. We all want to succeed together. So, I've learned some tough lessons throughout the last, few decades, but each one I think has contributed to how I lead today.
Those are great lessons. I'm going to ask you kind of a cheesy question, but like, if you were going to tell me your superpower, what would your superpower be?
So I'll tell you my superpower, and I will caveat it that I'm not sure my husband would agree, but I think he would. So I think my superpower is listening. I am an introvert by nature, so I sit back, I observe, kind of back to the last question that you asked me, learning to ask the questions. I have developed a very fine sense of listening. And it's not just, I listen to the words, but I think equally important is I listen to what's not being said, and I try to read body language. And I think that sometimes if you're really quiet and still and you're asking the right questions, people will tell you things that are outside of their words, and you can continue to probe. I also think it's important to hear all the voices. So if there's a big meeting, and when you're in a meeting, you're there for a reason. You're there because you have something to contribute. But we all have different skills that we rely on, and some people don't speak up as often as others. And so if you're watching and reading and listening, you can see when somebody might be on the verge of saying something, but maybe they're hesitant. And, that observation helps you to say, hey, Amy, you look like you might want to say something. What's on your mind? And, I think that we get the best out of our teams and each other when we listen, when we really stop and not only focus on being heard, but really hearing others. And I will tell you, this is not a superpower I was born with. This is one that has evolved over time. When I think about superpowers, I think about people that are just born with a great trait. I wasn't. It's been developed over time, but that's what I think my superpower is.
That's amazing. I think we all could work on that. And, even just like in today's digital world, trying to pay more attention to the little cues, or just
Oh,
come off mute for a second, then go back on because they were going to say, but somebody else started
yeah.
talking. And wow, yeah, that's excellent.
Well, and you bring up a great point. Yeah, our senses need to be really differently attuned when we're digital, and I think also seeing who comes on and off, but also who might be checking their phone when you really need them engaged, or am I being tempted to check my phone? Just really kind of trying to stay present is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just were telling us a little bit when we were talking about these pivotal moments, a little about your leadership style just being different from someone else's, but can you tell us more about your leadership style and how you think it might be different from your peers?
So I have always described my leadership style as servant leadership. Again, I say always. I should probably caveat that and say maybe for the last, you know, 10, 15, more like 10 years. And so when I think about servant leadership, the way that I kind of envision it, and there are books written on it, and it's the one that resonates the most with me. It's the one that I aspire to be like. It's the one that feels the most natural to me. But I heard someone describe it once as, you think about the typical org structure where you've got like the CEO on top, and then you've got the lieutenants, and then you've got, the next lieutenants, and then you've got the people who are really touching the customer. And so you think about that as kind of the standard org chart. When you think about servant leadership, you take that standard org chart and you flip it upside down and recognize that, without my team, without the people that are facing our customers every single day and, providing exceptional service, I am not needed. And really, they know more about what's going on with the customers than I do. And each layer that you get, we all have to deploy some of this servant leadership because, I work for others on the team and leaders work for others on the team. And, I think sometimes, sometimes you can forget that. And it's really so critically important because, our teammates are touching the customer, and they're the reason that we have the business that we do, and that they're the reason we succeed in the marketplace. So I try to keep that, forefront on my mind. And you asked about how it's different from my peers, and I'll think about, the people that I work with, here at this company, and we've got a lot of amazing leaders, and I see a lot of the servant leadership. I see a lot of humility and appreciation for the people that we work with and the hard work that they do. So I would say it's not so different. We all have a little bit of a different flair. And certainly, I think that, there are common leadership traits: being decisive. I mentioned being inquisitive, that just about everybody has. But I think that the team that I have the pleasure of working with, I think that this is a pretty cool quality that just about everybody shares. There's one guy on my team, and I won't embarrass him in case he sees this, but he'll know that I'm talking about him. I say that servant leadership is near and dear to me. I have never seen anyone who takes it more to heart than him. I've never seen a better coach, mentor, cheerleader for his team ever in my career. So, I still look to the amazing leaders around me, and I learn every single day.
That is amazing. I love the servant leadership, and I'm sure that that's why you've been so successful.
Well, thank you.
And we also, you were mentioning about authenticity. So I wanted to just, dive a little bit more into that. Can you talk more about how you bring your authentic self to work now? And I know you talked about that it changed a little bit, but has it changed over your career more than that one time?
No, it has. It's definitely evolved. I used to think that what authenticity meant for me personally was having the ability to look the way I wanted. At various points in my career, I have big hair, and it's naturally curly. And if I don't tend to it, it tends to be, you and I were joking about, kind of voluminous hair before we started. But, I thought that the way that I looked was showing up authentically. I like to wear makeup. I like to wear big jewelry. I like fancy shoes. And I used to think that if I can just look the way that I want, that's, being authentic. And in a traditionally conservative role that I was aspiring to, I think others looked at the way that I looked and said, that doesn't really fit the mold. And I rebelled against that. I really, I didn't appreciate that. But when I think about how I view authenticity today, certainly the way we all look, the way that we choose to physically show up, that's a piece of it, but it's not the most important piece. For me, it is more of a willingness to be vulnerable and, being willing to recognize that you're not going to have the answer to everything. And you don't have to, give this air that I have all the answers and, I'm, whatever, this guru. No, we build the talents of the team by each of us bringing our unique talents to that team. And it's okay to say, you know what? This isn't my area of expertise. I'll make a decision, but the decision is that you're going to make the decision because you have the expertise. Or being vulnerable enough to say, you know what, this is a big problem and we all need to figure it out. It's not thinking that, just because I've risen to a certain level that, I have to show up like I know everything. I value humility. And I think that there's a lot more success when people do show up authentically with their talents and feel free to speak up and share those insights.
Yeah, I happen to agree with you. That is definitely something that we all can work on, is trying to just be ourselves and be open to letting other people be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've had a successful career. Want to ask for your advice for other women that are aspiring to, maybe C-suite or looking to, make it and be successful in this industry.
So I would have a few pieces of advice. I would say definitely go for it. Women make amazing leaders. And I think that we could take a lesson from our male counterparts. There's some study, and I don't know the specifics of it, but the study was, and I'm making up these numbers, men will go for an opportunity if they feel like they're 50% ready for it. And like I'm making up the numbers. And women won't go for a position unless they think they're 100% ready for it. And I think that, sometimes we tend to be too hard on ourselves. I say, if you want something, go for it. Even if you don't get it, you learn from the experience, learn from the male counterparts, be bold. The other thing that I would say is network and build alliances. When I think back early on in my career, there are so many people who started at the same time that I did, that I have kept a relationship with, that are in really cool positions all across this industry. And you never know what you're going to learn from someone. You never know when someone's going to have a cool opportunity, when you're going to have a cool opportunity for someone else. So definitely network, build those alliances, and be yourself. Don't, it goes back to that authenticity. You are good enough. And, we're all evolving, and show up who you are, because who you are has something to definitely, offer the industry and offer each other. So I would really say network, build your alliances, get a coach, mentor, advocate. I think you can get one that's all three. I think that sometimes, we have a need for different people in those roles, but really get someone who's been there and done that. And I'll tell you, when, you get to a position where you're able to be a coach or mentor, you want to do it. And I know for me, the people that I am fortunate enough to mentor, they mentor me too. So you always have something to offer. So I would say, go for it. Have confidence in yourself and be authentic.
That is excellent advice. And like, shameless plug, if you're looking for a mentor, Rise Mentorship Program, join. If you're looking to be a mentor, Rise Mentorship Program.
What you've done with Rise is absolutely amazing. I know you're interviewing me, but I just have to say it's a game changer for the industry. And you are just you are a remarkable woman.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And I guess we could just end with this, is like, okay, not everyone knows that insurance is this incredible career. If you had to sell it to, somebody who's looking at it as a potential career path, what would you say about insurance?
So I would say that insurance is one of the coolest industries out there. And I know that people think, oh, I'm gonna, it's all sales. Even the sales is more about partnerships than it is about true sales, because you're helping others. But there is something for everybody. If you are naturally curious, if you like investigations, there's claims. If you are into data and analytics, we do predictive modeling, we do prescriptive modeling, we use AI. If you're into innovation, we're always looking to innovate this very old industry. If you are interested in the legal side of the house or the medical side of the house, we've got lawyers, we've got nurses, we've got pharmacists, we've got certified coders. If you're into communications or telling a story, there's marketing, there's internal comms, there's external comms. It doesn't matter what your interest is. There is something in the insurance industry that you can not only express those talents, but take them to the next level. Because we are such a competitive industry, we want to do more, and we're looking for young, excited talent that's going to help shape the future of the industry.
That is awesome. Yes, I am totally on board too. And there's so much opportunity. And Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I always enjoy seeing you and visiting with you, and I'm truly honored that you invited me.
Of course. And for all of you watching, please follow Rise for more interviews with exceptional women in insurance.